Have you ever wondered what really happens to a woman when she lives without sex? Society says she becomes incomplete, broken, even less of herself. But the truth is far more shocking. In the silence of her body, hidden emotions rise, old wounds surface, and a secret transformation begins. She either crumbles under the weight of absence, or she awakens into a strength no one ever expected. What I'm about to reveal is not just about intimacy, it's about the hidden power inside every woman when desire goes quiet. When intimacy is absent, when the warmth of touch and the closeness of another body vanish, a woman begins to encounter something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Herself. This absence does not leave her empty. Instead, it holds up a mirror that is often clearer and sharper than the eyes of a lover could ever be. In this mirror, she sees not only her strength, but also her vulnerabilities, her wounds, and her longings. Intimacy often distracts, softens, and comforts, but when it disappears, the comfort of another no longer hides the restlessness within. She begins to face her own silence, her own unmet desires, and her own hidden truths. The body has its memory. Desire lives in every nerve, every pulse of blood, every quiet breath at night. When intimacy is withheld, that desire does not disappear. It reshapes itself. It shifts into corners of the psyche that were once ignored. For some, it turns into anxiety or frustration. For others, it becomes a quiet fire that fuels ambition, creativity, or spiritual searching. What was once expressed outwardly through physical closeness now finds a new channel inward. And this turning inward can be both unsettling and liberating. She may notice that emotions once blurred by passion now rise to the surface with sharp clarity. Loneliness, once hidden under physical closeness, comes into full view. Unresolved griefs, disappointments, and memories of betrayal may surface. The mirror does not flatter, it does not lie. It shows her the shadows she has carried for years. In this confrontation, she might feel exposed, vulnerable, even fractured. Yet this exposure is not punishment, it is revelation. It is the psyche's way of calling her back to herself, urging her to see what she once avoided in the noise of desire. This absence also alters how she perceives her worth. A world that measures a woman by her desirability whispers that without intimacy she is diminished, incomplete. But the mirror shows her something else entirely. It reveals that she is not defined by another's touch, nor by another's desire. Her value does not depend on whether she is wanted or chosen. In the silence of her own body, she begins to recognize that she belongs to herself first, and in that recognition lies an immense strength. The mirror of absence also reflects the duality within her. There is the part of her that mourns, that longs, that aches for closeness, and there is another part, distant, detached, and quietly sovereign, that finds freedom in standing alone. These two voices often clash inside her, but in their tension, a deeper truth emerges. She is not simply one or the other. She is both the longing and the strength, both the vulnerability and the independence. The absence reveals the totality of who she is, unsoftened by the comfort of another. To live without intimacy, then, is not simply to live in lack. It is to live in confrontation with the self, to stare into a mirror that does not allow escape. What she does with that reflection determines everything. When intimacy is absent, the energy that once flowed outward through touch, closeness, and desire does not vanish. Energy is never destroyed, it only changes its form. The passion that once sought expression in the body turns inward, reshaping itself into something unexpected. At first, this transformation feels unsettling. There is restlessness in the blood, a quiet ache that does not find release. Many interpret this as emptiness, as if a vital part of life has been cut away. But beneath the ache lies potential, a raw force waiting to be directed elsewhere. The body and mind are deeply connected, and when one form of expression is closed, the psyche begins searching for another. What was once expressed as passion between two people may reappear as intensity in solitude. For some, this energy ignites creative fire. Words begin to flow, ideas sharpen, visions of new possibilities rise. The same energy that once burned for intimacy now fuels the making of art, the pursuit of ambition, or the discovery of inner worlds that had long remained untouched. It is as if the hunger of the body, denied one path, seeks nourishment in another. This transformation, however, is not always smooth. At times, the energy grows wild, spilling into frustration, anger, or restless longing. The absence of intimacy can stir shadows within the psyche, forcing a woman to confront what she cannot easily control. Yet even this turmoil is part of the transformation. The storm within is a sign that energy is moving, seeking, reshaping itself. When she learns to channel it, the same force that once felt chaotic becomes a source of clarity and direction. There is also a spiritual dimension to this shift. Desire carries within it not only a physical urge, but a deeper yearning to merge, to dissolve separation, to feel complete. When intimacy is absent, this yearning does not disappear, it rises in new forms. Some discover it as devotion, a longing for connection with the divine or with the larger mysteries of life. Others experience it as a heightened awareness, a sensitivity to beauty, to nature, to silence. What once pulled the body outward now pulls the soul inward, awakening a search for meaning beyond flesh. The transformation of energy also reveals strength that often lies hidden. A woman who learns to redirect her desires begins to realize that her vitality is her own, not dependent on another to awaken it. She becomes more attuned to the cycles of her body, the rhythm of her emotions, the depth of her imagination. Energy once bound to another's presence becomes a source of personal power. It teaches her that intimacy is not the only path to fulfillment, and that passion, when untied from the physical, can create something enduring and profound. In this way, the absence of sex does not mean the absence of life force. It means the possibility of transmutation. The same fire that once burned outward can be turned inward, illuminating parts of herself she never thought to explore. What begins as loss becomes transformation, and transformation becomes strength. When intimacy is absent, a woman begins to notice subtle changes within herself, shifts that ripple through her emotions like waves quietly reshaping the shore. At first, there is an uneasiness, a hollow space where closeness used to live. The body remembers touch, and in that memory, the heart begins to ache for what is missing. Loneliness often comes first, a heavy silence that follows her even in crowded rooms. Yet this loneliness is not simply about another's absence. It is about meeting her own emotions without distraction. Without the soothing comfort of physical intimacy, every feeling grows sharper. Every shadow within becomes harder to ignore. In this sharpened awareness, frustration sometimes rises. What once was easily dissolved in closeness now remains within her, asking for attention. The energy of desire turns into tension, and that tension can create irritability, impatience, or even bursts of anger. These are not signs of weakness but signals, the body's way of reminding her that unexpressed emotions seek release. In facing them, she begins to understand parts of herself that intimacy once blurred or silenced. The absence creates clarity, even if that clarity is painful. Alongside frustration, doubt can emerge. Without intimacy, she may question her desirability, her place in the world, her value in the eyes of others. These doubts are deeply rooted in a culture that measures a woman's worth through attraction and closeness. In the stillness, the voice of doubt whispers, "Am I enough even without being wanted?" The emotional shift here is profound because it confronts her with the question of identity beyond the gaze of another. If she can endure the doubt, she begins to build a new foundation, one in which her sense of self is no longer tied to validation, but to her own inner recognition. Yet not all shifts are painful. The absence of intimacy often awakens hidden layers of creativity, focus, and emotional depth. With no one to pour her passion into, she begins to pour it into herself, her work, her dreams, or her art. She discovers strength in solitude, learning how to soothe her own restlessness, how to find calm without depending on another's embrace. What once felt like emptiness transforms into a space for growth, a container in which she can redefine herself. In time, she may even feel a spiritual quietness, a sensitivity to the world that intimacy once overshadowed. Her emotions deepen, not only for herself but for life itself. She feels more strongly, loves more fiercely, sees beauty where she once overlooked it. The absence of touch sharpens her awareness of subtle things, the stillness of night, the meaning of words, the sound of her own breath. She learns that her emotional world is vast and alive, capable of sustaining her even when physical closeness is missing. The emotional shifts that come with the absence of intimacy are not linear. They rise and fall like tides, loneliness giving way to strength, doubt turning into clarity, frustration melting into creativity. Through them all, she discovers that her emotions, no matter how heavy or wild, are not enemies. They are teachers, and in learning to listen to them, she begins to uncover a deeper truth about herself, one that no intimacy could have revealed. When intimacy disappears from a woman's life, something hidden begins to stir. It is not always gentle, nor is it immediately beautiful. In the silence of her body, the shadow awakens. This shadow is not an enemy, but a part of her that she has carried quietly, often unnoticed, beneath the surface of desire and closeness. Without intimacy to soften the edges, the shadow rises more clearly, asking to be seen. It brings with it all the unspoken frustrations, the long, forgotten memories, the unhealed wounds, and the suppressed longings that once remained concealed under passion. The absence of sex often unearths these hidden parts of the psyche because intimacy can act as a mask, soothing pains that were never truly healed. When the mask is removed, the raw emotions appear. Anger may surface, anger at partners past, at betrayal, at unmet needs. Grief may come forward, grief for relationships that failed, for trust that was broken, for closeness that never arrived in the way it was hoped for. The shadow is not polite, it does not ask permission to enter. It arrives with weight, demanding acknowledgement. At first, the presence of the shadow can feel overwhelming. It may show itself in dreams, in sudden bursts of sadness, or in unexplained irritability. A woman may even feel that she is unraveling, that the absence of intimacy has broken something inside her. Yet what is breaking is not her wholeness, but the illusion that she was free of these hidden parts. The shadow insists that she recognize her complexity, that she is not only light and strength, but also pain and vulnerability. This confrontation with the shadow is difficult, but it is also deeply transformative. To look into the darkness within is to accept what has always been there. Unmet desires, unspoken truths, silenced needs. Many women, in the absence of intimacy, begin to realize that they had been giving too much of themselves away, or that they had used closeness to fill emptiness that could never be filled from the outside. The shadow shows these patterns mercilessly, stripping away illusions so that she may finally face her real self. Yet in this confrontation lies power, for the shadow is not only made of pain, it also contains strength, passion, and potential that have long been buried. When she allows herself to meet the shadow, to sit with it rather than run from it, she begins to reclaim parts of herself she thought were lost. The anger becomes fuel for boundaries, the grief becomes wisdom, the frustration becomes clarity. Every dark part, once integrated, becomes a source of new life. The absence of intimacy does not create the shadow, it only reveals it. And while the revelation is often uncomfortable, it is necessary. For only when she sees her shadow can she truly know her wholeness. To live without intimacy is, in many ways, to be invited into the deepest chamber of the self, a chamber lit not only by light, but by the dark fire of everything she has hidden. And it is there, in that confrontation, that transformation quietly begins. Transformation is rarely loud. It does not arrive with fireworks or sudden revelations that change everything at once. Instead, it unfolds slowly, quietly, through the persistence of absence, through the challenges of silence, through the struggle of unmet desire. When a woman leaves without intimacy, the process may feel like loss at first, as if something vital has been taken from her. But over time, the absence becomes a furnace, a place where her old patterns are burned away, leaving behind something stronger, sharper, and more whole. The very lack that once felt unbearable becomes the force that reshapes her entire being. The power of transformation lies in the way it forces her to confront what she once ignored. Without intimacy to soothe or distract, she faces her fears, her longings, her doubts. This confrontation is not easy, It is often painful. She may feel broken in moments, stripped of the illusions that closeness once allowed her to maintain. Yet it is precisely in this breaking that transformation begins. What shatters is not her essence, but the fragile shell that once concealed it. From the fragments, something new starts to emerge, something less dependent, less fragile, more authentic. Transformation does not ask her to become someone else. Instead, it demands that she reclaim parts of herself she has abandoned. The energy once tied to another returns home. The emotions once suppressed rise into consciousness. The strength once doubted becomes visible. She learns that intimacy with another cannot replace intimacy with herself, and in this realization she discovers the power to stand whole, even in solitude. The absence that once felt like emptiness now becomes a path toward self-possession, toward a fullness that no one else can provide. This change touches not only her inner world, but also the way she moves through life. She becomes more discerning, more aware of what truly matters. Relationships are no longer sought out of need, but chosen out of strength. She no longer accepts what is shallow or unworthy, because transformation has taught her the weight of her own value. Her solitude has carved resilience into her spirit, and this resilience shines through in the choices she makes, the boundaries she sets, and the confidence she carries. The power of transformation also reveals itself in her creativity, her ambition, her purpose. The energy once spent outwardly now fuels growth in every direction. She finds herself more capable, more focused, more alive than before. What began as a struggle against absence becomes a renewal of her life force. Transformation turns silence into strength, longing into vision, and restraint into freedom. In the end, the shocking truth is that the absence of intimacy does not diminish her. It remakes her. She becomes someone who has walked through emptiness and discovered it was never empty at all. It was a crucible, and in its fire, she was not destroyed. She was transformed.